Hi, I'm Dennis Phillips, and welcome to Everyday Reloading and Shooting. One of the very first steps in the reloading process is cleaning your brass. When you come home from the range, if it's an outdoor range, it might have been laying in the dirt, and even if it's an indoor range, there's going to be carbon buildup on the inside and outside of those cases. There's going to be debris, and you don't want that going into your dies. When you have to resize those cases, you want those cases to be clean. Otherwise, that grit on the outside of the case is going to work a little bit like sandpaper, and it's going to wear down the inside of your dies. So the first thing you want to do with your brass is to clean it. Now, there are different ways, different methods for cleaning brass. You can use a sonic cleaner, which is basically a liquid bath with detergent that you put your brass cases in, and it uses some sound wave technology, and it gets the brass incredibly clean. It's a little expensive though. You could also use a vibratory tumbler, or you could use a rotary tumbler. And either of those, with the vibratory tumbler or a rotary tumbler, you're going to need some type of media to help with the cleaning on the brass. You can use corncob media, or you can use ground up walnut shells. Some people even use lizard litter that they sell at the pet store, and you put that media in the tumbler with the brass, and you let that tumbler for a few hours, and the brass rubbing against each other and rubbing against the media cleans that off. That's dry tumbling. You can also wet tumble if you have a rotary tumbler. So I'm going to do some wet tumbling. So I'm going to show you exactly how that is done step by step. So that's a little messier than dry tumbling. The benefit of dry tumbling is that once you're done, you separate the media from the brass and it's ready to process. With the wet tumbling, you're going to have to separate the media from the brass, and that can be a little bit of a messy process, and that's probably why a lot of people prefer dry tumbling. It is in some ways easier, but wet tumbling with those steel pins will do a much better job of getting those cases cleaner. You're not only cleaning the outside of the cases, but those steel pins can get on the inside of those cases to help clean the carbon out of the inside of those cases as well. So let's take a look, and I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so I know that I tumbled this brass with some other brass recently, but I'm not really happy because there seems to be a lot of carbon around that case neck that I'm not very happy with. But I see that if you take a piece of steel wool and just go around it a little bit, most of that comes right off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet tumble these, and I'm going to use steel pins along with it. And I think that will take care of most of that problem. So this is the canister that I use for wet tumbling brass. So I've got 100 pieces here. So I'm just going to put them directly into the tumbler. And then I'll also have this stainless steel media. These are just little tiny pins. Just little stainless steel pins. And I'm going to dump those in with the shells. And we're going to put some soapy water in here, and we're going to let it run for a bit. Okay, so I've got the brass and pins in the canister, and I'm going to add just about a spoonful of Dawn dish detergent. And we're going to also add a little bit of Lemon Shine dish detergent booster. Not very much. About as much as would fit in a 9mm case. Then we're going to seal it up. And we're going to take it down and put it on the tumbler. And that should get this brass nice and clean. Okay, these things can be a little noisy, so I've placed mine in an area of the basement away from everyone. So we'll let this run for a few hours, and it should get those cases nice and clean. All right, it's been a couple of hours. So let's check on our brass and see how it's doing. So we'll take this upstairs and have a look. So this brass had already been tumbled in corncob media, but we have now, I want you to see how dark this water is. So we tumble this with a little bit of Dawn Lemon Shine, and we use stainless steel pins to rub up against it. So as you can see, that carbon that was built up around the neck is gone. And it should be pretty clean now, but I'm going to put some clear water in it and tumble it again just to get rid of the soapy residue that may have been left behind. And after that's done, then we'll use the media separator to separate the steel pins from the cases. So put about 3/4 of a container full of water. So we're going to run this for a few more minutes to get that soapy residue out of there. Then we'll be ready to dry it. Okay, so we tumbled it a little bit more. So I'm going to pour off the water, and we're going to put these brass and steel pins through the media separator. The second tumble was to try to get rid of some of the soapy residue that would have been on the cases. Here we go. And you can see here the cases with the stainless steel pins. So let's run this and see if we can separate those out. It's pretty noisy, so we're going to put the lid on it. So as you can see, the pins are now in the bottom of the container. So the brass should be free of pins. So let's separate that out and get that ready for drying. So I'm taking the cases and I'm dumping them directly onto this towel. I don't see any pins stuck to the inside of here. I see a few pins here on the towel. But we've got 100 cases here, so I'm going to give them a little drying off with the towel. Then I'm going to grab a cookie sheet to put them on and stick them in the oven. And I'll be right back. So these are wet, so they have to be dried off before we can do anything further with them. Could lay them on a towel out in the sun and let them dry naturally, but I prefer to dry them in the oven. So I have the oven set for 170 degrees. It's working up to that now. So I see it's at 131 at the moment. But we're going to put these in here for about an hour at 170 degrees, and they should be ready when we're done. And then once you've done separating your media, you have this, you have your stainless steel pins that are left over, but those are still wet because you were separating water as well as the media. So I'm going to put it right here, prop it up with a couple of pieces of wood, put a little wedge under the back to tip this forward. This is a basement floor. It's a concrete floor. So I'm just going to let it drain right there. It won't hurt a thing, and it'll evaporate, and we will be just fine. All right, it's been a little over an hour, so our brass should be done cooking or drying. Ah, yes. Very nice. Okay. So here we are. 100 pieces of beautifully cleaned brass, ready to be prepped and loaded. All right.